Infernus is a sustained damage DPS and disruptor style hero, excelling in close quarter skirmishes and prolonged fights. His unique playstyle revolves around igniting enemies after multiple hits, dealing significant damage over time. Welcome to the Infernus Starter Guide, and before we jump in, make sure you're subscribed so you get all the latest information on patch notes and tier lists when they drop later this week. Now, let's get started. Infernus shines in prolonged battles, where his damage over time abilities and sustained DPS can wear down opponents. His primary strength is in close combat, where he can stack damage on enemies and ignite them for significant burn effects. Though he may not dominate the lane early on, his potential skyrockets once he farms the jungle camps and builds up his items. Now let's talk about what Infernus' abilities do, starting with his first ability. Infernus' one is Catalyst, which spews napalm in a cone in front of him. Enemies hit by this napalm are slowed and have all damage from Infernus amplified for a few seconds. As you upgrade Catalyst, you'll get an additional charge, lifesteal against affected targets, and finally increased damage amplification and anti-heal applied to affected targets. Catalyst can be cast during Infernus' other abilities, so make sure you're using it early and often. Infernus' second ability is Flame Dash. When activated, he runs forward at a high speed, leaving a trail of flames in his wake. Infernus can increase the speed of his dash by holding down the left mouse button. In addition, Infernus gains 30% slow resistance for the duration of Flame Dash. The upgrades add a fire rate reduction for all enemies hit, additional damage per second, and lowering the cooldown by 20 seconds. Infernus' 3 is a passive called Afterburn. When shooting enemies, you slowly build up a burn effect on them. Body shots build that passive by 10% and headshots by 16%, with the buildup being lowered at the greater distances. Once the meter has been filled, the enemy starts to burn over a few seconds and takes damage the entire time. Afterburn's upgrades make enemies deal less spirit damage while on fire, increases the burn duration, and finally increases the amount of damage Afterburn deals. Lastly, Infernus' ultimate is Concussive Combustion. When activated, Infernus turns into a living bomb and explodes after a short delay, stunning all nearby enemies. This ability, once activated, will go off even if Infernus is stunned after casting. The upgrades for his ultimate lower the cooldown, increase the stun and the radius of it, and add damage and lifesteal to the explosion's blast. Infernus relies on two key combos to maximize his impact. The first combo is you start with Flame Dash to close the gap, followed by your ultimate for high burst damage, then use Catalyst to finish enemies and control the fight. His second combo is opening with Catalyst to slow or disrupt enemies, activating your ultimate so they can't escape, and then using Flame Dash to get away or reposition afterwards. In both combos, maintaining consistent weapon attacks is crucial to stack up Infernus' burn effects and maximize his DPS. Right now, my favorite build on Infernus focuses on his DPS by building spirit damage for Afterburn, but also massively increasing his weapon damage. In the early game, his tier 1 items are focused on building up his ability to sustain and apply damage in lane. From there, Infernus has a couple core items that really put him on the map. Soul Shredder Bullets gives him immense power since as you build up your Afterburn, you are lowering the resistance to its damage. From there, Toxic Bullets and Mystic Slow are two must-buy items. Toxic Bullets gives a second damage over time effect to Infernus, and with his burn and now bleed, they can work together to kill enemies that get away with a sliver of health. Mystic Slow, on the other hand, makes it really difficult for enemies to run away after being hit by Flame Dash or Catalyst, allowing you to follow up with a great ult. For his skills, maxing Afterburn first gives you everything you need to whittle down enemies in the early to mid game. From there, you focus most of your ability points on Flame Dash, followed by Catalyst, and ending with his ultimate. Now here are some tips and tricks for using Infernus effectively. Use Flame Dash strategically in all fights. Start a reload before activating Flame Dash. By the time the dash ends, you'll have a full ammo magazine to continue dishing out damage. The second tip is using Catalyst and Afterburn effectively together. Landing Catalyst makes it easier to ignite enemies with Afterburn, so make sure you're opening with Catalyst, that way you can trigger your damage over time effects just a little bit faster. Third one is farm efficiently. In the early and mid game, focus on farming jungle camps consistently and troopers as well. Infernus scales well into the late game, so safe farming is more important than kills in the lane. When it comes to teamfights, Infernus excels in front-to-back teamfights, melting any front line that steps into his range. He should position carefully, focusing on burning down tanks or any high-health enemies nearby. For a more aggressive approach, Infernus can act as a flanker, using his ultimate to initiate on the enemy backline after a fight has already started. However, this is a more risky strategy that can lead to a quick death if timed poorly, so make sure to engage only when the moment is right. Now let's talk about how you can beat an Infernus. Infernus is particularly vulnerable to anti-heal items. These can reduce the health regeneration he gains from his burn effects. Debuff, Reducer, and Remover are another strong counter, as it helps cleanse the burn effect entirely. If you notice that Infernus uses Flame Dash to escape a lot, building Slowing Hex can prevent him from dashing away, making him easier to catch and kill. With that in mind, Infernus struggles against heroes who are mobile or control heavy, like Lash, Pocket, or Kelvin, who can either evade his attacks or lock him into fights he wants to escape from. On the flip side, he's great into slower and mobile heroes like Dynamo, Vindicta, and McGinnis, where he can consistently apply pressure and burn to get them down. And that's everything you need to know about Infernus. Whether you're looking to melt through front lines or flank and ignite the enemy backline, mastering his combos and knowing when to strike is key to dominating with him. Remember to farm early, scale into the mid game, and use your positioning wisely in team fights. If you enjoyed this guide, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more hero breakdowns and gameplay tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.